Via telephone, Senate Finance Chairman Jason Barrett. JB, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Great to have you with us. The March revenue numbers are out, and the state did pretty well, coming in above estimates. And now for the year, you're $101 million ahead of estates with 3 months to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great news. West Virginia economy is doing well, and state's revenue collections are doing very well. And it's $39 million ahead of estimates. We collected $439 million, and the estimate was $400 million. A couple of the three major drivers that we always talk about as it relates to the state's revenue numbers. Personal income tax was $7 million above estimates. Severance tax was $20 million above estimates, and the sales tax actually was $7.5 million under estimate. So, as we have this conversation once a month. They fluctuate, but we've had a good year so far, and as you mentioned, $101 million over estimates for this fiscal year, with just 3 months to go. I think the state's in a really good position.
Was the timing a factor in any of these collections with how the first day of the month was a Tuesday in this situation, the final day was a Monday?
I don't think so. Not like, the conversation that we had, I think, at the end of January, maybe. I forget which month it was. It ended on a Saturday, and maybe it was January, February, I don't remember. And I think it's a pretty normal month as far as collections and ending on a Tuesday. So,
do you read anything into the fluctuation of the personal income tax being up, but sales tax revenues being down? That sounds to me like more people made more money, but maybe spent less.
Yeah, and it may. There's a host of reasons why something like that could happen. Again, we set estimates, or the budget office sets estimates. The Department of Revenue. They set those estimates, and you can't hit them 100% right all the time, but they've been fairly conservative, and there are just months, and I'm sure there are a lot of economists that could get way down in the weeds as to what consumer behavior is in every month or every quarter, and so I don't read $7.5 million. While that is a lot of money, in the grand scheme of things of the amount of revenue that the state collects. $7.5 million isn't anything that I would view as being alarming.
How do April, May, and June, April being a big tax collection, but also tax refund month, how do those three play out typically in terms of collections?
Yeah, you get into the summer are typically not good months. I think the collections in July and August, I think you'll see, more, potential for being underestimate than you would see maybe in June. I would expect April, May to kind of continue the trend that we've been, either right at the estimate or maybe just, hopefully just a little bit above.
There's a lot of different bills in the House and the Senate dealing with extraction and the minerals of the state of West Virginia. Do any of these things indicate? And I know there's also a lot of folks from an entrepreneurial and industrial standpoint who are developing technologies and things to extract even more or generate even more energy out of the state. Do any of those impact the future severance tax collections as a needle mover that you see?
I don't think there are any that really have a lot of traction that would do that. I think there are certainly bills introduced that could have some type of impact, but I don't think that there are bills that are going to pass both chambers this year that would have a large effect, either good or bad, on the state's severance tax collection.
Very good. Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, good morning, Jason. A couple of things. Senate Bill 506, which deals with what has been called locality pay. Is that going to make it through the Senate? And the second part of the question is, people say if it does get through the Senate, it's going to have a much rougher time in the House. Your sense on Senate Bill 506?
Well, and Rob always asks me when crossover day is, but he didn't do it this morning, and I was completely prepared to answer the question.
When's crossover day, Jason?
Today, right?
That's right. And so, unfortunately, that locality pay bill is not going to, make it across the finish line. It's not even going to make it out of the Senate this year. There's just the unfortunate reality is that that there are times when members of the legislature look at their district and see, well, this bill doesn't help my district directly, and so therefore I'm going to be a no. And it's just a hard thing to overcome, that you have to look at the big picture, and the big picture for the state is to do this. And we've made the case time and time again, and we in the Eastern Panhandle have voted on it for a lot of bills aimed at and helping other areas of the state. Now, not detrimental to the Eastern Panhandle, because that's something we wouldn't do, but things that help other areas of the state that have no impact on our area of the state, because it's the right thing to do for those communities, and it's the right thing to do for the state overall. And unfortunately, we don't always get reciprocity on that goodwill. So.
Well, talking about that, if I can, very quickly, Maria, is a bill that's in the House, was House Bill 3517, that would address those counties in financial duress. McDowell County, for example, the flooded. Is that going to make it through the Senate, or to the Senate?
Well, I don't know what the House is doing with that. I did have a meeting with some House leadership a couple of weeks ago regarding that bill. And I think that what the conversation was is to not allow county commissions to file bankruptcy. And I haven't read 3517 to be frank with you, because it's not over here yet. But if it does come to the Senate, it is something that I think that will certainly give its due consideration to make sure that there is a process in place if a county is not able to meet its financial obligations. Because right now, doesn't appear that there's much on the books or much direction from anything in the law that says what should happen if a county has goes under. And I don't I think that there's a lot of criticism from what I've heard, and I'm not all that familiar with the McDowell County situation. I know some things about it, but some of the reports that I've heard and things that I've heard from folks in the House is that it's a bit of mismanagement of funds, and so I think that we'll look at, if that bill comes over, we'll certainly take a look at it and see what we can do. And we had another bill, because we were talking about locality pay and things that impact the Eastern Panhandle. We had a bill in Senate Government Organization Committee the other day, which Senator Rucker is the chair of, and it was a bill dealing with water bottling plants and the ability to extract water out of the ground in areas where there's karst terrain for the purpose of water bottling. And what the bill would have done, or what the bill does, but didn't pass, unfortunately, it requires that a study be done, sent to the DEP. The DEP, had to review that, make a determination whether the study was proved that there was enough water resources there to be able to extract the amount of water that the water bottling facility were to pull out of the ground. It also required quarterly monitoring by the DEP, and if the adjacent property owners or in the community there, or wells were to run dry or run extremely low on water, essentially if the water bottling plant's extraction of water negatively impacted the adjacent property owners or the community, the DEP would then have to step in and restrict the amount of water that the bottling plant was pulling out of the ground. And that bill failed in the committee 7-6.
Is there a particular reason why it did not pass, Jason?
Well, I don't think there's a particularly good one. I think that it's some people claim that it was sending the wrong message to business across the country, that we were passing a bill that impacted something that was already proposed. I think some people had issue with this is a local issue. Some people were worried that it would impact, that it was kind of the camel's nose under the tent, where this would down the road allow the state to limit water extraction from the ground for other industry. So I think that those things, and again, we're back to doesn't necessarily impact their district. So
it's interesting.
A lot of reason to vote yes.
In a state, I would guess, I don't have any facts on this, but I'm going to guess that the majority of drinking water in people's residences in this state comes from wells, not from municipal supply. That's just based on the rural topography of the state and not having any large cities in it, that most legislators would be sensitive to well quality and quantity, and that didn't show up in this committee vote.
Well, it did, and I spoke to the bill and asked a lot of questions of, there's a representative there from the water bottling plant proposed in Jefferson County, and one of their biggest objections was this is going to it could potentially cost $500,000 for this study. Several of the members of the committee were concerned about the $500,000 cost of a study, and Sidewinder indicated that they had already spent $20 million, and by the time they were operational, they were be it $150 million to $175 million. So, that additional $500,000, while I'm sure they don't want to spend that, this would have provided a lot of assurance to that community that their water resources were to be protected. So it's unfortunate, that we couldn't get the support for that. But I told the members of the committee there's going to come a time when there's an issue like this in your district, and you're going to look across the table there, and you're going to ask for my help. And so, unfortunately, that wasn't enough to sway enough of them.
Not yet.
Not yet, Jason.
Miss Maria.
So, Jason, there's been talk, and it feels like it's more the relationship between the House and the governor. Governor is saying, some of his initiatives that don't seem to have the traction now. He's going to call you back in on special sessions, particularly CON, some other issues that haven't been able to be to get any traction. I mean, how do you feel like the relationship is between the Senate and the governor? Obviously, I saw you, at St. Joe's the other day. Everybody looked happy and doing well. So, is that primarily directed towards the House, do you think?
Well, obviously there's been a lot of news reports about, some of the things going on and some of the conversations and name calling or whatever else between some members of the House and the governor. I don't get in the middle of that. To your question about what the Senate's relationship is with the governor, I think our relationship is really good. I think we're working well together. I think we're working well with the House. And everyone has to realize that we all have a job to do, and we're all going to do our job. At the end of the day, we have to negotiate and come together on pieces of legislation in the budget. And I don't take any of it personally. I try to do everything I can for the district that I represent. As the finance chairman, I have to take a broader view sometimes to find out and work on legislation and put things in the budget that are good for the entire state to move the state forward. But I know I'm not going to always get my way. And I know that the people that are on my side on one particular issue is great, and the next time they may be on the opposite side, and that's okay too. That's what this process is about. But unfortunately, sometimes folks go to the media and express their displeasure and their concerns with a particular member or the governor. And I always try to do that privately. If I see somebody that is doing something that I'm completely against or something that I think is wrong for our state, I don't come on this radio station and blast them publicly. I'll go talk to them personally and see if we can, and privately, and see if we can work something out. And I think it's just far better to operate that way because, again, we're all in this together. And going out in the media and calling somebody a name really doesn't help us work together in the future.
Does make for a fun show, that too.
Well, it does. It's great for the media, and I can sit there and if other people want to do it, I'll eat popcorn and watch it. But I'm not going to engage in it if I can avoid it.
Jason, we're talking about 506, locality pay, that's not going to get through this year. Are there other bills that you're disappointed that did not move forward?
Well, certainly I supported the CON bill. I thought Bill, you and I've talked about this several times on Wednesdays, and I told you early on that I thought the House would be able to get something out as it relates to CON, and even it may be as watered down as possible, but to keep the conversation going, to allow the Senate to maybe strengthen the bill a little bit more, and then send it back to the House and see if we can negotiate getting to the point where we provide more access to health care to the people of West Virginia. But unfortunately, that's just not going to make it this year.
County home rule?
Well, there's no bill for county home rule.
Not going to happen.
Well, there's a bill for 1% sales tax, but that's not home rule.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Technically, that's true.
The safety bill.
Yeah.
Right. The Safer Community Fund. That a version of that passed out of the Senate last week. With Senator Helton's bill from Fayette County. It includes a sales tax option or an amusement tax option. Obviously, there's a lot of rafting and a lot of tourism in Fayette County, which is where Senator Helton is from. So that's one of the reasons that he's obviously supportive of the amusement tax part of that. Passed out of the Senate pretty overwhelmingly. The House had their version, and they I don't know where that is, but they passed it out of their House Government Organization Committee. They actually have the Senate bill now that passed out of House GovOrg. So I'm not exactly sure where that bill is in the process, but it does look like it has momentum and is moving forward.
All right, Senate budget. You've got to roll one of those out. The House has already. I think the House sent theirs already, Jason.
Well, the House Finance Committee passed their budget out of the committee on Monday. It's now on the House floor. Should be provided that they didn't suspend any rules or I'm not sure when it was reported out. It's either on first or second reading today.
Okay. And the Senate?
So the Senate Finance Committee will meet tomorrow to take up the budget at 3:00, and then we'll have that sent over to the House. And so early next week, I fully expect my counterpart in the House, the finance chairman there, Vernon Chris, he and I will sit down and try to negotiate back and forth and try to iron out our differences and obviously try to give some consideration to what the governor is asking for, so that we can get this budget out and get it agreed to. Make sure that it's a budget that the people of West Virginia are supportive of, and get that out by day 60.
If I'm reading correctly, Jason, it looks like the House version is not vastly different, but quite a bit different than the governor's version. Yes, you may not have.
I think there will be people that would agree that it's vastly different.
Okay. I was trying to be kind.
Well, and that's okay. I mean, they go through their process, and this is a negotiation. We know that the bill the budget bill that passes out of the House and the budget bill that passes out of the Senate are not going to be the final product.
Sure.
And so this is a bit of a negotiation, and we'll work to an end. I think that we can all agree to. At least I hope so. And this Finance Committee in the Senate has done a tremendous amount of work, to put together a budget that we're confident in, that will satisfy the needs of the state, and we'll do that for 12 months. And I know there's some concern, some state agencies have some concern that, in the past they don't feel like they've been funded for a full 12 months. And, I know one of those is corrections, who didn't feel like they were funded for a full 12 months last year. They were funded at 9 months. But we funded them last year at the the budget request of the previous administration, minus their increase to PEIA, which is only a few $1 million, and they were several $1 million short. So those things you just work through, and it's a transition from previous administration to a new administration who does things a little differently. Certainly, our current governor is far more hands-on. I've had more interaction with him personally in the past 50 days than I have with the previous governor in his 8 years. So I think that it's at least as far as I'm concerned, we're working extremely well together. And hopeful that we can, come to a compromise that everyone's happy with.
Jason, you got to get to meetings, and we are out of time. We appreciate yours, not just this Wednesday, but every Wednesday so far during the legislative session.
Thank you all so much. Have a good day.
Thank you.